Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson, and now Russell Wilson could be on the move. Man, this quarterback carousel has been nuts. How does this impact the Sam Darnold trade, and could Russell Wilson be traded? What's up? Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot today. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. All right, boys and girls, let's talk about some quarterback carousel news. The Jets and the Jet fan base went a little bonkers yesterday when there was a report dropped by The Athletic that Russell Wilson could potentially be considering the New York Jets, and everyone's minds went off the rails. And I'm starting to think, all right, I can't wait to make a video about this. And then just a few hours later, Adam Schefter drops a tweet saying that the only teams that Russell Wilson is considering are the Cowboys, the Saints, the Raiders, and the Bears. And then my big old Jet chubby just... not the... Totally flipped. Not that I was necessarily looking to trade for Russell Wilson, but it's an interesting thing to consider. So the reason the whole New York thing started coming up, obviously drafted by the Yankees, so, New York connection. His favorite idol growing up was Derek Jeter. His wife wants to be in New York City for her music career. And then, obviously Jets have the second overall pick, and there's a lot of connections with Robert Saleh being the defensive quality control coach while Russell Wilson was winning a Super Bowl out in Seattle. So there's the connection there. But, alas, no more Russell Wilson in green and white potential. But there are a few teams that we could talk about. I wanted to get into it just a little bit. First off, let's talk about let's talk about Russell's contract. What it would cost a team if they traded for him, because you see these massive numbers, huge contract, like high 30s, $30 million and whatnot. Well, if traded, the signing bonus doesn't transfer over. We've talked about this with Deshaun Watson. The same thing applies for Russell Wilson. So if Russell Wilson is traded, he's under contract for the next 3 seasons. The team getting him would be $19 million, $24 million, and $27 million the next 3 years. So really, really nice contract if you're any team looking to pick him up. Now, if we were to look a little bit at the salary cap situations of the 4 teams that were mentioned, along with Seattle, it has me, kind of thinking a little bit about where he could potentially go and who could fit these players. So the Saints, $69 million over the salary cap right now. So really not in the best shape. They're going to shed some more contracts. They'll rework some things, and maybe they'll get under. I don't see them as a realistic landing spot for Russell unless he totally renegotiates his deal and takes like $1 million in like salary this year, but I don't know if I necessarily see that happening. The Raiders are $8 million over the cap right now, so they're getting closer. I think they still have to sign their draft class, which is going to be another $10 million. So they're going to have to shed a little bit of contracts just to get under the cap. Bears, $2 million over the salary cap, but both those teams can definitely make moves and restructure some things to get Russell Wilson in the building. The Seahawks are sitting at $4 million, obviously his current team, so not a whole lot of wiggle room in terms of bringing in new free agents and new talent to help out that offensive line that he's so upset about. And the Cowboys are sitting at $19 million in salary cap space as of recording this video. So, why does Russell Wilson want to get traded? Well, he has been abused. He has been absolutely sacked more than like almost any other quarterback in the league since he's entered the league, and it's just going to wear down on your body. We saw Andrew Luck retire because of it. We see Deshaun Watson. We see all these guys, start chirping about like, I'm getting hit a lot. I don't want to get hit. I want to last a long time. I want to be like Tom Brady. I want to play till I'm 45 years old. Well, I have a little bit of an issue with this and where Russell wants to go. Because one, Russell's play style, he very much holds on to the ball. I don't know if part of that is the height. He's only 5'11", so allowing lanes to kind of open up where you could throw the ball. Maybe he doesn't go into a quick passing situation. Or just him holding on to the ball generates those explosive plays to like DK Metcalf and all those guys, which plays break down, guys get wide open. That's where the explosion really happens. But when you hold on to the ball that long, the best of offensive lines are not going to be able to hold their blocks that long. So I have a little bit of an issue with Russell claiming the offensive line argument, especially when you consider, I took a look over at Pro Football Focus, and it's not, all 100%, but their rankings for offensive lines as of last year, the Saints ranked 8th. Pretty solid. That's a good spot, but we just talked about their cap situation, probably a pretty unlikely situation. The Raiders, they ranked 24th. The Cowboys ranked 27th. The Bears ranked 20th. And the Seahawks The offensive line he wants to get away from, ranked 14th. So it's like, dude, you want to go to another team that's got a worse offensive line than Seattle? I don't know. I think he's frustrated. He wants input into the organization. They feel like they're not letting Russ cook. That was the whole big thing. Russell Wilson went on an absolute tear at the beginning of the season, and he actually tried to patent let Russ cook and try to sell all these cookware items and whatnot. But the idea is let him sling the rock all over the place. The guy is a phenomenal quarterback. And then like halfway through the season, I want to say it was like the Giant game early November, where things just sort of fall off the rails. And then Pete Carroll sort of pulled back some of the control. They started running the ball a little bit more. And Russ was almost like the scapegoat, if you will, for a lot of turnovers. I don't know if there's any fumbles in there or whatnot, but had a little bit of issues going through there. So I get why he wants to be traded. He's frustrated. He wants to feel like he's at least in on the discussion. A lot of players are starting to feel that way, similar to like the baseball and the basketball aspects. And the NFL players are starting to get in that realm. They're starting to kind of work their way in there. And Russell Wilson with another no-trade clause. So it's not like the Seattle Seahawks can trade him wherever if that were to be the case. But let's talk about a few of these teams. So the Cowboys. If I were the Cowboys, you have Dak Prescott, who just destroyed his ankle last season. You offered him a really nice contract, and he declined it. He's 27 years old, so there's a 5-year difference between Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott. If I were the Cowboys and Russell Wilson is legitimately an option, I would go to the Seahawks and I would say, hey, we will franchise tag Dak Prescott. You can work out your long-term deal with him however you want. And we will trade Dak Prescott to you. You get 5 years younger at quarterback, and you get a guy who's going to be incredibly motivated because he did not get the long-term deal in Dallas. And I would imagine he's probably a little upset at Russell Wilson right now, saying he'd rather go to Dallas, or saying he could go to Dallas. I could see a little bit of conflict there. But Russell Wilson comes in, 32 years old. Again, Dallas has all the weapons in the world, so it's an attractive landing spot. It's America's team. I could see why he'd want to go there. This fit, to me, makes a lot of sense, especially given the salary cap implications and whatnot. Then we talk about the Saints. Like I said, cap is going to be a real big hurdle with them trying to get Russell Wilson. Now, Michael Thomas, real big fan of this move because they played together, Russell and him, at the Pro Bowl, and he tweeted out a picture. So I think he would be endorsing a Russell Wilson acquisition to the New Orleans Saints. And I would be excited. I think that would be a really cool spot to see Russell land, and I would love to see him in the Saints offense. But that said, again, I think this is probably a little far-fetched because they're going to have to drop a ton of cap. Now, they could start trading guys like maybe a Lattimore, maybe a Ramczyk to Seattle. That would free up a bunch of cap on their end. It would make their offensive line a little worse. It would make their secondary a little worse, but it might help them facilitate the trade there. The Raiders. Raiders are an interesting situation because I hadn't really considered them as a real big player. Derek Carr's sort of in that middle-of-the-pack type quarterback. He could play really well, but he's somewhere probably between 10 and 20 in like a whole spectrum throughout the season. Him going to the Raiders would be really cool. I think that would be really neat. They have a really strong running game with Josh Jacobs, and I love the idea of him opening that new stadium in Las Vegas and having that star power. I think is really cool. Plus, staying on like the West Coast might not be the worst thing if you're Russell. You may not want to move all the way across the country. Then we're going to talk about the Bears. The Bears are a very interesting spot because they are in desperate need of a quarterback. And I would say of the 3 teams here, or of the 4 teams here, this being the 4th team, I would say they would be willing to give up the most in a trade to get Russell Wilson. They are in a win-now window because Khalil Mack not getting any younger. You want to try and kind of take advantage of that while you can. So for me, the Bears look like an attractive spot. I think the Cowboys make the most sense from a money aspect and what they could give up. They could trade, franchise quarterback for franchise quarterback. You get a little bit older, but you're getting a cheaper deal than what you'd be getting with Dak Prescott. So that's kind of where I fall there. Now, how does this affect the Jets? And what would I do? First off, if the Jets were to potentially get in on a trade for Russell Wilson, I would be cool with it. I don't particularly want to go that route. I absolutely would. I would not give up nearly as much as I would give up for Deshaun Watson, though. That's sort of my hang up there. But alas, we're not talking about the Jets so much getting Russell Wilson as much as we are talking about how it affects Sam Darnold's trade value and the trade market in general, especially with us wanting to trade down from number 2. Now, of the 4 teams Russell might want to go to, None of these teams really strike me as a team that wants to jump up to the number 2 pick. So I don't think that affects the Jets' trade down situation per se. When you talk about Sam Darnold, I do think if he goes to the Bears, if Russell Wilson gets traded to the Bears, that impacts the Jets far more with the Sam Darnold trade than any of these other teams. Because the Bears, I think, are probably, I would say them, Washington, and Carolina would be the 3 teams that I would say are the favorites to land Sam Darnold because of their draft assets, their the amount of push that they've really had to try and get a franchise quarterback this offseason. Both teams have been in on the Carson Wentz or the Deshaun Watson or the Matthew Staffords or the Goffs. Like they're all trying to get quarterbacks. So for Sam Darnold, if he goes to the Bears, not the best situation if you're the Jets. But it is interesting. I do like watching this whole situation because who knows, if the Jets could potentially work out some sort of like rumor where they could potentially be in on this, I would want the Jets to be like looking over at Deshaun Watson and be like, hey, this number 2 pick, it might be gone. It might be going to Russell Wilson if the Houston Texans don't trade for it. But the bigger part of this, the really big part of this, aside from like where he goes and how it affects Sam Darnold's trade value, is that sweet first round pick that the Jets got for the Jamal Adams trade. There's nothing that would make me happier than to watch Seattle flounder around without a quarterback. So Jamal Adams has to like go from miserable situation to like, oh, this is going to be a great situation, to like being in a miserable situation. That would just warm my heart just a little bit more. But that first round pick that we got for Jamal, not this year because that season's already done, but next year, the 2022 first, if Russell Wilson gets traded, that pick could be in the top 10. Imagine the Jets now owning a situation similar to the Dolphins where you're playing at a playoff caliber level, but because the incompetent Texans couldn't build a team around Deshaun Watson, they now own the number 3 overall pick. That could be the Jets if Russell Wilson gets traded. Like, that team is not good outside of Russell. I don't care about DK Metcalf. I don't care about Lockett. I don't care about Jamal Adams. I don't care about all that other stuff. You lose Russell Wilson, you're not going to the playoffs. You're going to be in a world of hurt. So as a Jet fan, I'm looking really hard at this Russell Wilson trade because of how it could impact the Deshaun Watson trade. Maybe that Seattle first next year becomes a really attractive trade chip come draft time. Guys, I'm really excited about it. I don't know if I'm excited about like where Russell goes, but I'm excited about him potentially leaving the Seahawks, and that would make me just so happy. Guys, let me know your thoughts on the potential Russell Wilson trade. Where do you see him going? What do you think it will take to get him? And how does it impact the Sam Darnold trade and our future of our New York Jets? Guys, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, go Jets.